everyone!
Hello.
Welcome to the JagCorner. I am Will Thorpe, and this is Bryce. And today we are going to talk about more Jag stuff. Similar to last week, we're going to go over some threads. We're going to talk a little bit about
more than just Jag. So we're touching on just retro things, things that interest you and I, right?
Yep. We're going to be talking a little bit about Retro Man Cave. For those who know who he is, he's a pretty awesome YouTuber. A little bit, and we're going to revisit some threads on AtariAge. But hope you had a great week. Hope you enjoy our time here. If there's anything wrong with the audio, please let us know. We think we have it sorted out this time. And also the lighting is a little bit better on the cameras and stuff like that. And so hopefully we want to thank our friend Mike for loaning us a microphone for this session. It seems to sound pretty good, at least on our end. So, anyways, let's start. Bryce, get us started.
Sure. Over to my desktop there. So we talked about this a little bit last week. This random, what do they call it? Necro post.
Necro post.
Guy in 2001 asking about Carbon, whether he was a playable character. Anyway, it got down here and somebody got on the point about various fighter games on the Jag and what's the best. And
so there's Kasumi Ninja.
Yeah.
There's Ultra Vortec.
Fight for
Life.
Double Dragon
5. Oh.
The one nobody wants to.
It's terrible. Is that the same as the SNES one, or is it just a worse version?
Any videos I've seen about the SNES, and I think even Genesis versions, they say it's just as bad.
It's just a bad game.
It's just really bad.
Is there anything else?
If you want to count Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee.
Did it have a 2-player mode? I think I've only played that game once.
Gosh.
Not
I've only played it a few times too. I think it does have a 2-player mode. I want to think that because it's a fighter, but it is a Jag game.
Yeah.
So
who knows?
It may not. So other than that, I don't think there's anything else. I know there's been some homebrew guys that have threatened to release a fighter, but that hasn't happened. Anyways, continue.
So
I just wanted to see.
When's the Trevor fighter?
Yeah, seriously. No, we're not going to do that. Don't ask for it.
Furries would love it.
Nope.
Sorry. Anyway, so I get down to it in this last post. Talks about, it was a response to somebody's post about, chipping away damage on Ultra Vortec and how it's not hard to, and he's just like, Kasumi Ninja for the win. Yeah! Kasumi Ninja.
It's the best thing for the Jaguar.
But it had 3D in it, right?
I don't think I've ever played a full round of Kasumi Ninja. I literally... It has a really cool character select screen, which is like this pseudo... It reminds me of Dungeon Master on the ST, but 3D. Yeah. Like, it has that feeling.
Like Wolfenstein.
Move around. Something about the colors reminds me of Dungeon Master for some reason, though. I don't know why. But then I get into a match, and I start playing, and I'm like, nah, I'm done. I'm done with this. But anyways, that's a great way to end a thread on AtariAge.
So I actually didn't have an account on AtariAge. I just barely requested one. So
you have to request them now?
Well, you sign and it says we'll send an email once it's approved. I don't know if it's automated or if they actually look. I imagine they probably look at every single one just to be sure.
When I signed up
just a few
a
people
decade ago, it wasn't that way, but it's possible Albert's changed things a little bit.
So, anyway, when that happens, this got me thinking, I was like, we should go necro post on all sorts of cool stuff from, like, early 2000s, or, I don't know, does it go back to the late 90s?
I know it goes back to at least 2001. I've seen posts that old. I don't know when AtariAge started. That's a good question.
I'll have to look that up, but it'd be fun to just kind of go mess with.
I don't know. It might be fun to see if there are some relevant threads that could be.
This one was. It's too bad it got derailed.
Yeah,
like instantly.
Immediately after.
Nobody knows still if Carbon's a playable.
Oh yeah, Carbon. That's right.
You didn't get it. See, you didn't.
Yeah, I totally forgot. It's just like, we're talking about Kasumi Ninja now.
So
that is like the showcase for the Jag.
Yes, that's the one I show all my friends when I want to show raw 64-bit.
That is a good segue into our. You have one more thing. What did you want to talk about?
I've got a couple here, but so I was watching Retro Man Cave this week. I don't know if any of you are familiar. Great channel, not a sponsor. I think we're just going to throw that out every 5 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Nobody's a sponsor.
We'll put the disclaimer now.
Yeah.
Anything we reference here in this video, we're not a sponsor of.
Yeah.
This is all just
or nobody's sponsoring us, and we're not sponsoring anybody else.
So anyway, he talked about his. I don't know if you've seen this. It's worth going and looking at. There's these Amiga cases. Sacrilege on an Atari chat. I don't know. Anyway, these remade Amiga cases here that can take original Amiga boards and things. He took it and took his Mr. FPGA, and that's if you're not familiar with what that is, it's like it's not emulation. It's a chip that can actually recreate how the chips on systems worked, and you can actually swap those out.
Yeah, you're actually programming transistors, which is really cool.
So it gives you like hyper accurate, low latency gameplay, and like you can output to CRTs and all sorts of cool stuff. Anyway,
it's probably as close as you're going to get to real hardware in terms of duplicating the hardware without actually getting the original schematics and stuff.
Exactly.
Like that, so.
Yeah, without actually remaking the chips.
And what's cool about this is it's perfectly legal because you're reverse engineering on something that isn't the actual hardware, and so you're not recreating the hardware.
The emulation, you don't call it emulation, but the emulation part of it is legal.
Yes,
the
ROMs are a whole other case, but yeah, the quote unquote emulation part is legal. So
anyway, so in his video here, he talked about the various cores. The cores are the instruction sets that can be put onto the FPGA to run these various systems. He actually mentioned the JagCorner and how there is actually some work being done on it. And then shortly after that, he talked about how he's going to be doing this in his next Retro Man Cave live stream at the end of the month. I tried figuring out which date and time it was exactly.
Couldn't figure it out.
I don't know.
Does he have a main website? Other than Twitch?
I didn't go look.
Okay.
Anyway, here's his Twitch page. I'll put this in the chat. But I was thinking, because he's asking, when I'm on that live stream, let me know what systems or games you want me to try. And I thought it would be cool if we got the Jag community to just slam his stream and just Kasumi Ninja on the Jag now, and see if we can get him to actually, or at least do the JagCorner.
He may not bite on that, but Tempest 2000. Everybody, let's get him to do Tempest.
Yeah,
it'd be cool to see that.
And I would love to see where the performance is at on the FPGA right now, because I cannot find anything. If anybody has seen something, let me know. That'd be awesome to see.
I don't think he has just a standalone webpage.
Yeah, it feels like he's mostly just social.
But yeah, that'd be really cool if he covered the JagCorner. All I know, I haven't been following it really close. I'm trying to remember where I read about it. It was probably on an AtariAge thread. Somebody was talking about the JagCorner. They actually do have games running, but they have to be individually patched to get them running.
Yes, I think
that's the last thing I remember, and I could be remembering wrong on that. But it's cool that they're doing that because Virtual Jaguar right now, I believe, is one of the better emulators out there. There's a few variations of Virtual Jaguar, like Arata Jaguar, and then there's one other Russian one or something where they're using the same base code, but they're adjusting things, I believe. They're good emulators, but they're nowhere near accurate at all. And so the FPGA route might be the route the Jaguar will end up going anyways for emulation. So it's not a popular system, and so you can't expect a whole bunch. And Seamus has done an amazing job, and all the other people on Virtual Jag, and so we wouldn't be deving without it. And so we're very thankful for that.
Well, it'd be cool to see the FPGA stuff pushed further in the future, and it will. I mean, eventually we'll get to the point where it may be a future chip that's just more capable, has more transistors or whatever, that we are able to just recreate that hardware. And then at that point, the hardware, trying to preserve the hardware becomes less important. Like the Jag CD.
Because if you have basically hardware accurate emulation, it doesn't matter anymore.
I mean, it'd be cool to make sure you want to preserve some of that too, but
it will die.
This hardware will fail eventually. To have that preserved in that fashion is really cool. So anyway, worth checking out. We'll try and follow up with that on our future streams if I can find out some more information and push us. I'm planning on being there, so I think it'd be cool to see if we can actually get him to do the JagCorner on that. So the last thing I wanted to do is kind of an artist highlight. I saw a video recently. I think it was SNES Drunk or some weird channel. Anyway, he was talking about some of the best music on the SNES. And the guy he brought up was Dean Evans, and he did the music for an incredibly horrible game based on an incredibly horrible movie, Waterworld. I mean, we grew up watching Waterworld. It's weird. Our dad had a fascination with sailboats, and so we watched this movie a lot. And so
the ending of that movie is great as far as I'm concerned. There's just a lot of crap in between it.
It's just kind of weird.
And sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
The technical aspect behind the movie is amazing. And if you know the history behind what went into making that movie and the crap everybody went through to make that movie, it's amazing it got done at all.
Yeah.
And so from that aspect, it is worth watching.
The practical effects and everything that were going on there was nuts. So I want to play just a quick sample of this. We shouldn't get flagged. There's just 20 seconds or so.
Yeah,
it's really cool. It reminds me kind of the Tempest 2000 kind of vibe. So anyway, yeah, his channel I think is very much worth checking out. He's got a lot of his music from games that he's composed for posted there. And so go check that out. Support the artists. I believe he's still doing some new stuff too, so really interesting. But that's what I've got. We ready to switch over to you? Or?
Yeah, give me just a second. I realized we hadn't posted on Facebook yet, so I was gonna push that out really quick. If I can figure out how to view.
Let me post the link for.
Yeah, post the link
Mr.
on that.
Dean
I really like the soundtrack for that SNES game. I've never played the SNES game. I think I've seen. There we go. I was wondering where that was.
Just bust it, yeah.
There we go. Cool. Get that on one of our channels. Okay. I really like the music for that game. Definitely a good soundtrack. I heard the game is actually, I was reading on a forum, somebody said the game is actually pretty fun.
Waterworld?
Yeah.
The review I watched, the drunk guy.
Was it the exact
opposite? He was basically like, yeah, it's got the overworld where you drive the ship around and it moves like every other boat. It's not like a sailboat at all. And then you get to these platforming sections that are just horrible.
Oh, man.
Brutal and just not fun.
So it's like a techno cop. But,
kind of.
But worse.
So.
Of course, Techno Cop's fun, but it did not age well. All right.
It was just cool to see guys just explode into a pool of giblets.
Giblets.
From 3 shots from your handgun.
That was pretty cool. It felt like everything was moving around so fast in that game.
Yeah.
And I guess you get used to it. I remember I was too young to play it anyways, but I watched you guys playing it. I was too young in terms of knowing how to play it.
Yeah.
And I've tried playing it in the future, and I bought a disc copy, but the disc didn't work, and so I just haven't gotten around to playing it yet. That would be a fun one to do, though. I would love to figure out how to get a good output from my Atari ST so I could stream it, but play it on the monitor still. Get a splitter of some sort. Haven't found anything. Okay, so bringing up Wormhole 2000 again, it actually released during the week. I think it was on Wednesday? Could have been right at the beginning of the week, too. I can't remember exactly. Anyways, it's releasing. And I just wanted to cover this really quick because it does not have a box. I'm just trying to see if there was anything on the thread here. There may not be. Yeah, this is a while ago. Anyways, there is a link on AtariAge. We'll post it in the chat here too, somehow. Bryce will get that into the chat. There's a link to his website. I think it's in the first post of that thread. It goes right to the shop. Anyways, it's the shop for €40, which is a little over $30 if I remember right in US. The reason why I wanted to bring this up is it doesn't have a box. Not yet. He is currently working with somebody else, and what I don't know is if you purchase the game now, whether you're going to get a box or not. I'm assuming you are going to get a box because as far as I know, he hasn't started sending these out yet, so he may be waiting on that. Because I'd be willing to pay like $5 or $6 more for a box if he can do that. Anyways, For those who weren't here last time, and we had audio issues last time, it's kind of like Tempest 2000, where you go around in a circle and you have these asteroids that come up. It's pretty fun. They come up in different patterns, kind of like a shooter, like a side-scrolling shooter, but around a circle instead. People compare it to a game I've never played. There's somebody put up a screenshot. Let me see if I can find it here really quick. It was a Vectrex game, or an arcade vector game of some sort. Oh yeah, right here. Gyrox? That's not right. There was another one. Oscilloscope vector game. It does look the same though. Looks very similar. Anyways, it's an old idea put on the Jag though, so it has all that 64-bit power and is awesome. He's using a lot of classical music for the soundtrack, which is interesting. Anyways, yeah, I support your homebrewers because we're homebrewers too, and we want to make sure everybody enjoys new games on the Jag. And so the more people that buy, the more games we're going to get. So, beyond that, again, another plug on something that's being sold right now. I've been following this thread. Again, nobody's sponsoring us here. I'm just pointing this out because these guys put a lot of effort into this stuff, and I would hate to see them have stock left over on this stuff, especially if it's so good. Like this guy, he said, I've spent just over a week with a pre-modded Star Wander RF 2.0 controller. Star Wander controllers, the aftermarket Pro controller that came out about a year ago. And could not be more pleased. As has been said, the work is so clean it looks like it came from the factory. In fact, I like it so much that I put in an order for a second. Most of my time has been on 0.5 and Raiden, but the RF 2.0 even has me revisiting Trevor McFur. It's still a crap game, but the RF 2.0 makes it a bit more tolerable. A spoonful of sugar, I suppose. Anyways, if you're on the fence for a kit or a pre-modded controller, I highly recommend getting this while it's available. Top work.
Yeah, looks like they're still available.
Yeah, I think he's going to do them until interest peters out, if I remember right. I can't remember if he said something specific in the thread, and we don't have time to dig through the thread right now. But I would, man,
$60, which
it's not
Pro
bad.
Controllers are going for what now?
I think they've sold out on the aftermarket ones. So if you want to get one, I think no, you can still get these aftermarket ones. Somebody's still selling them on eBay, I'm pretty sure.
Well, this is the official one then, huh?
If you want an official Pro controller, I think they're going for like $200 or $300 now. But the aftermarket ones were going for $100.
Oh no, this is a reproduction.
Is it?
Yeah.
He's selling through the shop.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, you can get them right on AtariAge, and then you ship it off to this guy for an extra $60, and he does the mod. And I believe he has different modes too for different speeds for the rapid fire. For the turbo mode is what it's called on other consoles. So you can adjust how fast it actually shoots. So he put a lot of work into it, and maybe we'll buy one here. I have a few of those controllers that I could send out to him and get, because Trevor McFur and Raiden could really use a rapid fire. Both those games. I was playing Raiden. I did play Raiden this week. I actually got almost to the end of the game. But man, your thumb is so tired. I had to switch fingers because I was getting tired, and you have to be shooting all the time in that game. Just bizarre to me.
Yeah, because most of those games are designed, you just hold the button down.
Yeah, and it just goes.
The end of it.
It's like, I guess it's too easy.
It's funny with those kinds of games. I guess there's probably situations where you're supposed to not fire in some of them.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, why don't they just have it just shoot all the time?
Yeah.
And then have the buttons for your secondary, like bombs and things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun game though. Raiden is one of the few shooters I really enjoy. Is the Jaguar version of Raiden. I've tried playing it like on the Sega Genesis. They have the same game, different version. It's not as good. The music isn't as good.
I've watched some reviews on the various versions, and the Jag version, they don't consider it the best, but it's definitely one of the better versions that have been released.
I'm sure the arcade version is great.
Yeah.
Obviously. They have a unfinished version on the Lynx that seems to play really good, but the scrolling's really bad. And same thing with the ST. Yeah. The ST version's the same deal.
Same problem.
So bad scrolling. For a game that relies on scrolling, you need good scrolling. Yeah. I was just thinking of Blood Money. I was trying to think, does that have good scrolling? It's good. It's decent. It seems like it slows down once you get a lot of coins on the screen or something.
I don't remember. Seems like the horizontal scrolling's good on it, and then like when it starts to go vertical, because there are parts where it goes vertical, that's where it does the chunky.
Has some hard time
move,
with it because it's designed. Was the ST no, it wasn't. So they're doing the bit. No, there's something to do with bit planes there with horizontal versus vertical,
it was the same issue they had with cannon fodder on the ST. Like it would scroll smooth in one direction, but the other direction was in 16 or 8 pixel chunks.
Yes.
Because that's just the way it had
works.
to do with memory alignment on the ST is weird.
I remember I got the box for Blood Money and one of the or the manual. It says it in the manual or the box. I have both. Anyways, it's down there on the shelf somewhere. But really cool box art. It touts how the player character is always moving at a certain speed. Like, so the movement for the player versus the background has been separated. Really cool box art. I think it was used for a few other games too, the same box art, but because it is so awesome. Somebody was licensing it or something. Anyways, cool games. So rapid fire, scrolling shooters, awesome stuff. One more thread, really quick here, that I thought was pretty fun, and we can read through quite a bit of this. It's kind of an interesting thread because a thread like this pops up every few months. Something about the power of the Jaguar, or what if they could do something. And I like this thread because it's pretty honest. It starts out this week I've been playing the Jag more often than previous months. Watching an Iron Soldier 2 video below, a thought it has occurred. Where I used to believe that rebellion is... What? I don't get that. I used to believe that rebellion is... It seems... How is that supposed to start? Am I reading that right? We are. Oh, gosh. We are used to believing. There we go. That's what it's called. We are used to believing that Rebellion has extracted every ounce of 3D power from the Jag with AVP and Skyhammer, which Skyhammer's pretty impressive, and AVP's really impressive. As impressive as AVP, he says that right there. They're really not much more than boxes, finely textured with superb art direction, and even so, the Jag still struggles with frame rate. Looking at those nice round silos, there's a lot of polys being used to make those shapes so round. And I think he's talking about this right here. And it is pretty impressive. And it's ground shading, too.
Half sphere, which is not as heavy as the texturing. Like, as soon as you throw texturing at the Jag, that's when it crumbles.
Have you noticed a slowdown going from flat shaded to ground?
Oh yeah. Well, no, from flat shaded to ground, there's less of a hit.
Because that's a hardware thing,
from
isn't it?
Flat or ground to adding texture is a massive hit. And I believe that has to do with the hardware bug on the Jag, where it has to do a full second pass on the render to be able to combine the lighting.
So you're cutting your
texture.
frame rate in half,
exactly. And I've noticed that, working with some of the polygon effects, in the library that we're using, it just brings it to a crawl.
Anyways, he keeps talking about how we're used to believing. He did it there again. We're used to believing the Jag struggles to render just a few boxes on the screen, but this game proves the Jag, when properly programmed, can handle impressively polygon counts. And we've talked about this several times with Iron Soldier. Iron Soldier has always been impressive.
Iron Soldier and Hover Strike. Some of those levels on Hover Strike, they get pretty busy. I mean, the frame rate drops, but it's still playable just by nature of how the game works. And I get the feeling they're doing a lot of pre-calculated stuff, which is what I was working on the 3D stuff. We're doing pre-calculated trigonometry. Just because when you go to turn your vehicle, there's definite angles that it sticks to. Yeah. And so, but that's a way of optimizing.
An optimization, yeah. Well, so the story goes on, and people, they talk, there seemed like there was one more thing. He just talks about how much is going on. And apparently he's worked in 3D animation for 2 decades here. And so he's like, this is pretty impressive.
At the time, for sure. I mean, that first Iron Soldier game, that wasn't released, but it was within the first year.
I think it was the first year. I know they had to delay it quite a bit. Yeah, look that up really quick. It seemed like it may have been a year later. It could have been at the beginning of 95.
It was 94.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So maybe it was just a few months after release. That one. After the second release. Because there's the New York, San Francisco release. The coastal.
December 22nd, 94. So
okay, so it was...
Yeah. A little over a year.
Yeah. So, anyways, which was really impressive. But their 3D engine was about the best on the system. Weren't they also working on a racing game? Somebody mentions that there's going to be they said Iron Soldier 2 was like their 1.5 version of the engine of some sort, so they were working on an even better engine.
Iron Soldier has some cool things going on. If you play the game and really pay attention to the ones that are noticeable for me are the gray ones that usually have the repair boxes in them with the red tops. If you watch, they're doing a level of detail system because when they're in the distance, they're just sprites.
Well, and
it works so good in the transition. You can see it. I mean, there's a little jerk, but it's still far enough away that you're too focused on everything else to even notice.
You're talking about Iron Soldier 1, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So Iron Soldier 2, if I remember right, it pushes the level of detail by distance even further.
Yeah.
It brings that threshold closer to the camera, and so you notice that it's going from a 2D sprite to a 3D object closer to the camera. Yeah. But they do that with more objects in the game, and I think that's how they were able to push the detail.
Throw more polygons in at closer range.
Yeah, because Iron Soldier 2, there's obviously an upgrade in the engine. It does run better because in Iron Soldier, and they don't mention this, and I think I did mention it in the JagCorner review we did 5 or 6 years ago. But if you blow up a building and you're right next to it, like you've been punching it, like it chugs because it's drawing these big polygons that are filling the whole screen and all these sprites for the explosion and stuff.
And that's the other factor I've noticed doing polygon work on the Jag is the number of pixels that have to be filled on the screen. That has a huge effect because we were doing a cool thing where we had this set of I think I was doing up 64 just Gurad shaded squares, and if you kept them down to just a few pixels each, you could keep 60 frames per second no problem. But if you scale them up to like 10 by 10 or 20 by 20, per square,
suddenly you get a slowdown.
You'd cut your frame rate in half. So,
sorry, I'm just gonna bring the chat up.
Depends on what.
Whoops.
Sorry about that.
Oh, back. Did I hit a button?
Must have. It's alright.
Oh, we got it. Okay, anyways, we're going to come back to that idea of we know the Jaguar slows down a lot if we have big polygons versus far away, right? And I want to talk a little bit about the Saturn and the PlayStation in relation to that because I had a conversation with Jacob about that. He was asking, like, what's the difference between 3D on the Jag versus the PlayStation and the Saturn? And there's a huge difference in the way they handle 3D. It's the same difference why 3D looks so different on the 64 versus the PlayStation and the Saturn. Anyways, we'll get to that here in just a second.
Got some like comments here.
What up? Hi all. Hey Lee. Hey JT. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. We're talking about 3D on the Jag. So, yeah, we're doing great.
Social gamer. Thanks for joining us.
Hope everybody's week was good. It's been nice and hot here where we are in the western United States.
Yeah.
We're talking 3D on the Jag. If you're just joining us, there's this neat thread on AtariAge called Jag's 3D is actually impressive? As a question. No. He's looking for consensus. And this thread is pretty it's like, yeah, there is some consensus. Anyways, another game people bring up here is World Tour Racing, which had a pretty terrible frame rate. It wasn't checkered flag bad, but it still wasn't very good. But what games have you been playing? Or Homebrew? What Homebrew? You been playing any Homebrew?
Club Drive.
Oh man, Club Drive for the win! I love Club Drive. Somebody did I was watching Games Done Quick, and somebody did they have a world record for Club Drive for beating just the racing circuit, one-player racing circuits. So that's a fun game.
Which is a challenge because it almost feels like it's left to chance.
No, it is.
You hit some of those bumps and just like your car just goes crazy.
It's funny, during his run, he talked about the bumps in the road and stuff, and he actually exploits some of them to skip over certain things. It's really cool.
Social Gamer mentions Doom. I don't know if he's aware, and this might be worth talking about real quick, the improvements they've...
Oh, yeah. So Doom, if you've been following it on the forums, Club Drive and Flashback.
Flashback's good.
Sorry, I'm just going to mention really quick, I beat Flashback for the first time on the Switch. On the Nintendo Switch, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that game. Tried playing it on the Jag, crashed on me 3 times, and it chugs at certain parts. It's almost unplayable. The Jag version of Flashback. Anyway, so Doom, really quick. If you've been on the forums, you're probably aware of this, but I believe they have a fix for multiplayer, cooperative, and deathmatch. Whatever networking bug was going on there, they have a software fix for that. They fixed the status bar for the characters at the bottom of the screen. It was shifted over in the original, and so they shifted it back.
Because they're doing a dynamic resolution change on the scan.
Yeah, with the scan
it's pretty
lines,
crazy how they do that.
They got music back in the game, and so
that's the one that really, like, when you mentioned that, I'm like, no way.
And I don't remember all the details, but long story short, it was something like the guy working on it. I think it was CJ that's been doing most of the work, Cyrano Jones on the AtariAge forums, but he said something similar, and he can correct me because he might swing by here. I think he swung by last time. But basically, he was looking at the code, and they were on their way to implementing audio. But it seemed like because of whatever deadlines or something, they said, scrap it, we got to get this released, we got to get it out. Because he said they were no more than a month or two away from getting audio in there.
Well, and the thing that blew my mind is because that's what... Whenever you see like these comparison videos of the different versions of Doom, the Jag version's brought up about how great it is visually, and the fact that John Romero was the guy who worked on it.
Yeah,
right?
he did it.
That was one of the only. In fact, I think that was the only console port he was directly involved in. That was the only one he was. And so the music not being there, everybody just chalked up. Oh, the Jag just didn't have the overhead to handle it.
Because John Romero worked
exactly. It's like, and so it's really cool to see these guys like digging into it. It's like, no, it was perfectly capable. They just, budgets or whatever, they ran out of time. Yeah. So it's neat to see that coming along.
Here's the other cool thing with Doom. With compression algorithms and stuff like that, he's adding a ton of maps to the game on top of the original ones. And apparently he's fixed a few of the levels there were some issues that were... There were parts of the level locked out or something. I don't know Doom as well as these other guys, but anyways, they fixed existing levels. They've added more levels. It'd be really cool if they got like the new sigil pack that Romero did. It's really good. I really like it. Anyways, so
I'm gonna post
Doom is really
a link to an article about that. Should give you, if you want to go down that rabbit hole and figure out how to do it. On the Jag, if you've got a skunk board or some way of pushing a custom ROM out, you can actually test that out.
Yeah, you can test all that. So. Yeah, I don't know why. It could have been my copy of Flashback. It was just having issues. It could be my Jag, too.
I know, I beat it back in the day, way back.
Really?
In the day. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
That's the first time I beat it.
Where it
first and only time.
Slogged. I got to the city, and there was something in the city that was just... I'm like, I can't play this. It's too slow.
The game show part?
No, I
running around
I haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
Gosh, what was it? I can't remember. Anyways, but I really enjoy Flashback though. But I can't imagine beating that game without save states at the end of the game. Of course, if you've memorized it, it's probably a little bit easier to get through. But Flashback's a great game though. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Somebody did do a Hackaday article.
Hackaday's pretty cool, and they get all sorts of retro stuff. I love checking out their website.
The other cool thing about the Jaguar port of Doom is that code base was used for a lot of other ports. One I know for sure is the Game Boy Advance is based off of the Jag assembly.
Which is another one I've played extensively.
Me too.
I can definitely say, that
and it's funny because the level scheme and everything is exactly like
the textures used, where they reduced texture. It was all identical.
It's cool.
Just resolution differences.
And that was...
And the green blood, of course.
That was almost a decade after the Jag version came out, which is really cool.
Once again, it's been said 100 places out there, a testament to John Romero's... code writing skills and comment. They say I've not looked at it myself, but he says his code is extremely well commented.
Yeah.
So it's not hard to pick up and get into if you have the fundamentals of C programming. So it was written in C too, which also helps.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard the SNES version of Flashback is miserable. So I did. It seemed like I pulled up the Genesis version in an emulator, and it seemed to be running pretty good. But that was an emulator, so I don't know if it was accurate in terms of frame rates and stuff like that. So, anyways, back to this thread really quick. They talk about iWar, and another proof of why the Iron Soldier engine is pretty impressive for the Jag is the iWar engine had less textures than Iron Soldier, but it chugged. Like, whenever anything happened on screen. Like,
that game was busy, though.
Yeah.
There were
it does have a lot going on.
Thrown around. Oh, no, the particle systems are nuts in that game.
Yeah, there are.
Like, when you blow up enemies...
Well, even when you shoot them, there's little particles and stuff. Maybe, I don't know, it just seems like it isn't coded as well, but I could be wrong. Iron Soldier is... I think Iron Soldier is my favorite game on the Jag. Like, I love Tempest 2000, but there's something about Iron Soldier because of how impressive it is, especially for the time. And I think it's a fun game to play still today.
Minus the escort missions. Those are...
yeah.
Outside of that, I agree. Iron Soldier's a lot of fun to play. It's a paste. It's like Mechwarrior in a lot of ways. A lot of button controls.
But it's a little more arcade than Mechwarrior. And I think that's why I like Mechwarrior as well, but it's still just into that complication, that complexity that would turn someone like me off. So I have beaten Mechwarrior 1 and 2 though, and Mechwarrior 2 is great. I really like Mechwarrior 2. I love to walk. Yeah, I like walking up. I like chainsawing things. It's a lot of fun to see how far you can get with just the chainsaw. Is a lot of fun. The last time I played at the escort mission, I actually memorized it. I'm like, I'm gonna memorize this because I'm sick of doing this 100 times, and so I memorized it. I still, like, in my head, I can think of a lot of the scenario. There are some missing parts, but I can think through exactly how to move. So
Bob Dunlock, yay for Mechwarrior 2. I want to put it out there. I'm
great soundtrack.
I grew up Atari, right? But I love retro DOS and like early Windows gaming. I have like 3 or 4 systems at home that I keep maintained just so I can play older games. My favorite was Mechwarrior 3. Something about that era of graphics just for me has extremely strong nostalgia.
Like the Nintendo 64.
Really washed out low res texture, low polygon look. I love that stuff. Yeah. And the dithered look. Yeah, the PlayStation had a lot of that. Oh, it's interesting because I didn't play a lot of PlayStation, but now I'm going back and playing it. Yeah.
Well, cool. And it's weird if you've been away from, especially the PlayStation on a CRT screen. Like it's so great to play PlayStation games on a CRT screen again. Yeah. Because that dithering is built for a CRT. It looks great.
Yeah, Mechwarrior 3 is cool. That very first level, they drop you in there. There's a little town. There's soldiers running around. You could blast them with your laser. Go step on.
That was so much fun.
That game was a load of fun.
Those first levels are like seared in my mind because I wasn't quite good enough to play the game, but I could get through the first few levels.
That's another game with a great soundtrack. I love the music.
Well, Mechwarrior 2 and 3. Yeah, they both have really good soundtracks.
A lot of those older DOS PC games. They had it was a lot of the Amiga and Atari guys moving with the times. So it's great stuff.
The soundtrack so I've been listening to a lot of the Jag music. I haven't burned a CD, and I listened to it on my old CD player in my car. And I got the Iron Soldier soundtrack, and I'm liking that soundtrack more and more. Probably just because I'm getting used to listening to it, but it's not as bad as I used to think it is. It's appropriate. It fits the game really, really well. Somebody put some real time behind it. Yeah. It's really good. That and Ultra Vortec.
So going back to the Jag and 3D, I just want to point out just this idea. So the PlayStation, Saturn were probably being developed 93 to 94, right? And their graphics were getting developed at that point. The Jag had been developed, my understanding, as early as 1990. Yeah. And Nintendo was just barely looking at any sort of 3D, and so to have...
Well, I think you can carry it back further, because the Panther started in 89, if I remember right, and so...
And Cybermorph was originally developed for the Panther.
Panther and Trevor McFur.
So. To put it in that context, the 3D that it is doing is actually quite impressive. It's almost like this generation that never happened except for the Jag. It's this weird in-between between the 16 and what is the 32-bit era.
You kind of get it with the Panasonic 3DO, but
yeah, that's true.
It seemed like that felt a little bit later than the Jag too in terms of its tech. And so I agree with you. The Jag was kind of its own little sphere that it lived and died in. And it's really cool that way.
It's this first real solid attempt at 3D in earnest, you know?
Yeah.
Not just a fun gimmicky thing like Star Fox on the SNES.
And that's what I wanted to get to. Well, and this is kind of contrary to the comment you just made. Because Star Fox engine is a real 3D engine.
Yeah.
And when I say real, this is kind of subjective, what I'm saying here. But when you compare like the N64 with the PlayStation, the way they do 3D is entirely different.
Yeah.
And I was explaining to my one of my other brothers the other day about the difference between the Jag and the PlayStation, because the PlayStation, you're just skewing 2D things to make it look 3D. That's what you're doing. You're skewing sprites, essentially. Or
that was the Saturn.
That was the Saturn.
Yeah, the Saturn, because it could only do quads.
And so,
tries.
But the PlayStation was limited too, because they didn't have any Z buffer depth stuff, and you had to create your own culling. Anyways, just to get my point out really quick. So you had like Star Fox on the SNES, which was real 3D. It had Z buffer, all that stuff. You were generating polygons. The only other console that was doing that at the time was the Jag.
Yeah.
And then you had the Saturn and PlayStation, which were doing tricks. They were 32-bit systems that had hardware that were doing tricks to make 3D, essentially. And then you didn't get a real 3D console until the N64. That was the next 3D console, because it was actually generating those polygons with 3D math.
Yeah.
And so they weren't taking any shortcuts, because they finally had the hardware to do it. The Jaguar was ahead of its time in the sense that it didn't have enough hardware.
It had the Z buffer, but it didn't have the power behind it to really use the Z buffer. And I think that's why a lot of the games didn't end up using it.
Well, and then it was doing weird things like the Saturn and PlayStation, because it had the hardware garage shading, which was really cool. But it didn't have a piece of hardware for texture mapping. And so
one similarity of the PlayStation to the Jag is the way it did the math.
Integer base.
Yeah, it's the fixed point math.
Yeah.
So the 16.16.
And that's why you have pixels jumping around. And
you get
like
that jitter, that classic PlayStation jitter on 3D graphics and stuff.
And you get that with the Saturn too.
Yeah.
They're doing the same thing. You didn't get that floating point stuff until you had processors like in the N64, and I can't remember the name of that processor, but
got Jody Hicks here asking if we'd like an SNES to Jag AV adapter.
Sure. I do have an SNES. I do have. I have an S-Video, Nintendo AV cable.
We'll have to check up with you.
Oh, but yeah, you need those Retrovision cables too, huh? With Jag and get HDMI output. It might be worth it.
Huh. We'll take a look at it later. We need to
get
moving along here.
There was one more thing. So, in a comment made by Wave 1 Games, that's Jeffrey. That's the guy who did Jag Zombies and those homebrew games. Yeah. He says, if Supercross 3D had been more refined in regards to its frame rate prior to release, we'd be telling a totally different story about that game today. No, its frame rate would not have helped. Yeah. Because it is one turn in that game in the wrong direction and it crashes.
Yeah,
that was rushed out so quickly. And here's how you know it was rushed out so quickly. It has 3 different names. It has a name for the box, it has a different name in the manual, and then it has a different name on the title screen. It's ridiculous what's going on with that game.
That is not the game to pull out if you want to highlight 3D on the Jag.
That's one I would say, let's forget that one. It's not worth it.
I'd rather talk Club Drive before I talk that game. For sure.
So here's this will be the last comment on this thread. Gray/MSB. I must admit, I didn't read the whole thread, but we, Retro Venture, I don't know who this is the first time I've heard of them, are working on 2 games. One platformer and one complex 3D title for the Jaguar. No ST ports. No ST ports. That must be a jab at Reboot and those guys that are doing the ST ports. And believe me, Jaguar has potential, and we will prove it. So I don't know if that's a joke, but it sounds serious to me.
AtariAge.
Yeah, it's AtariAge. It'd be cool to see something. So I'm not going to dog it until we see some video. And my footage is really bright on my camera. Sorry, guys. We need to lock that exposure one of these days. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think I think that's all I have. So, what else do we have? Totally got to keep side hustling strong. I'm actually not making any more spares lying around.
I'm not familiar with that hardware. I'll have to take a look at it.
I haven't talked to you about that, have I?
Oh.
So it's just, it goes right onto the AV port.
And it's using an SNES cable?
Yeah, because that cable was used for the SNES, N64, and GameCube.
That's right.
And apparently there is another set of cables that you can plug that into that goes straight to HDMI. And so you're going from his adapter to the SNES AV cable to another AV cable that gives you HDMI.
Interesting.
So,
I don't know if we have any SNES AV cable. Or
I do.
You do have one?
I may even have an S-Video one, but I don't know if you can use that with the Retrovision. Excuse me, the Retrovision. Is that what it's? The Rad 2X or whatever? Anyways, yeah, we'll have to look into it.
Didn't the GameCube support composite on that connector too? That'd be cool.
Oh yeah,
composite out for the Jag? I doubt it. Well, just the
or component. You mean component?
Or component?
Yeah,
not
that would be. I don't think it did. I don't think you had component until the Wii U.
Huh. Well, no, I've got it on the Wii.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I've got component on my Wii.
Gosh, they've just been so slow with their outputs compared to everybody else, anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm aware that you have a thread on the Jag forum. We just haven't talked about it because I think you stopped selling it before we started doing these live streams. So, or around the same time, and so, anyways. No, we'll get a hold of you if we're interested in that. I kind of have my setup for AV. It would be nice to have a good HDMI output. Like I have a kitty box. There's some guy over in the Czech Republic or something that was making them. It's really good, but the signal it gives out, none of my capture devices like. I don't know why, and there's nothing I can do to change that. So I was kind of hoping you'd put out a new version that gave you some options with the signal, but the only option you have is a 50-60 hertz for PAL and NTSC. But anyways, so Bryce is going to keep digging into social media channels and chat. If you want us to look at anything or talk about something,
throw a hashtag out, Atari related, that I can look up on Twitter.
Oh yeah, give him something you can look up on Twitter,
and I will choose them.
And while he does that, I'm gonna do some painting. I've only done a little bit on that illustration, and we'll probably just go for another 10 or 15 minutes, unless you guys want to keep chatting. Let me switch over to. Oh, I'm already on my desktop. So I'm kind of doing a family portrait for one of our games. I don't know where this artwork's going to be used. I've been trying to figure out how the artwork should look for that game and for the packaging and stuff like that, and so I've gone a few different directions. The title screen for one of these days we'll do a recording of our game, so you can see what I'm talking about. But the title screen for our game has this cool, almost retro wave, deep purple to this
we ought to show that today.
Orange.
Go and do some art, but I think we should go a little bit longer maybe. And
okay.
If people are still around, we can take a look at
well,
that.
I kind of want to, if we, well, yeah.
It's up to you.
I'll silhouette these guys really quick. Let's see here. It's 148. Let's just do the game. Let's not do painting. Painting can get a little bit boring. So, you guys want to see our game? We'll show you the title screen and show you the update to Flappy McFur. I haven't done that for a while. Let's see here. Okay, the Jag's on. So let's go over to that. I need to reset the input. Give me a second. See if that works. There we go. Okay, hopefully the audio will work well. Let us know if the audio is too loud on the Jag or if it's too quiet. We can adjust a little bit. So this is what I was talking about with the background, kind of this purple to orange, like burning orange, with this crescent. And so
it's a nice gradient.
Yeah, it's a nice gradient. This is actually a 24-bit, I think. No, I think this is the 24-bit sprite that I did for this title screen because I wanted a really, really nice
clean
smooth gradient.
Yeah.
And this title screen isn't finished yet. It's just a placeholder, but right now you can go through the 3 different games. Gosh, I can't even play. We may need to switch over to a different input. Give me a second. we need to. I was thinking about this. We probably need to set up another monitor specifically for this. But okay, yeah. So this title screen isn't done yet. What we're going to do is I'm going to do a flyby. So in Trevor McFur for the Crescent Galaxy, there's the title screen has the sprite go across, if I remember right. It's sweet. So I'm going to do something that's similar to that, but it'll look a lot better. It'll have more frames. He'll fly by, and then what he'll do is he'll just cross the horizon with a little particle system for his engine or something in the back. And he'll go across, and then it'll just repeat or something. And I may have a few other things. Like we were talking about maybe doing some Easter eggs with that if you wait or something. So we'll see. Not sure yet. Anyways, yeah, let's show you Flappy McFur. Oh, do you have the chat pulled up?
I do.
Oh, I can't show you Flappy McFur.
You know, built into this version.
Give me a second. Let me look at the code.
Oh, lag coding.
Yep, I guess we are going to do some Jag Dev today.
Switch back over to your disk.
Yeah, switch over to me. Crap. Why isn't this? I can check here really quick, pretty quick. Okay, Crescent Memories. So I probably just have something. Yeah, no, those are there. Go to the header file. Those are in. Oh, this is an old version. I just need to reflash it. Wait a second. I'm going to pause my sync. Okay. Make ROM. Nope. JCP-ROM. Or no, skunk. I think that's it. Give me a second. Example. Skunk-ROM. That's what it is. Make skunk-ROM. This will take about a couple minutes, so to flash to the. We can switch back over to.
One thing they're definitely getting right at the VCS is the marketing stuff. I love
the look.
Their videos they've put out.
Did you
really good?
Did you see the box for it? For the VCS, it looks like an old style console box. It's pretty cool. Like whoever's doing their marketing and packaging, they're really clever to fit that retro aesthetic. So they've been doing a pretty good job there. So I'm just, for those who don't know, I'm flashing a version of the game to the Skunk board, which is the device we use to test our programs on actual hardware. And because right now the game is just over 2 megabytes, or it's actually just under 2 megabytes, but it pads out to 2 megabytes when I build it, it has to be flashed. I can't dump it straight to memory. It will be done here in just a few seconds. I haven't done any dev directly for about a week on this. I've been busy. Okay, Flappy McFur should work now. There it is. Sorry, I'm going to turn the volume down so that doesn't echo. Somehow. Like
one of these knobs.
There we go. So it looks very much, I gotta update the copyright on it, but it looks very much like the original Flappy. There are some differences though. I think I did a recolor on those sidebars, just so they're a little more consistent. Still have the classic mover and flyer modes for those familiar, and the dodger mode. I forgot there is a fourth mode there. Something that's new is this pipe point multiplier. So whenever you get a coin, it increases the multiplier, and you get more pipe points. And so you can play the game with that multiplier on, so you can beat the game quicker if you want, or you can turn it off and play it vanilla. So every pipe is 1 point, and you have to go through 999 pipes to beat the game. And that's for every mode.
Do it well.
I know there's still some bugs in Dodger mode, if I remember right, but we'll give it a try. And then there's the toggle for that. The high score screen is new, so we're actually doing high scores that are saved to the EEPROM. So your pipe score and your coin score will be saved if the coins are enabled with the multiplier. But anyways, yeah, we have a high score system. And then the credits, has that changed? Oh yeah, it's scrolling now. I think before we had them scrolling in horizontally, but now we have like a movie scroller for the credits, so it's a little bit different. Okay, let's play a little bit. And we still have the award screen, so you can unlock awards. There aren't notifications for that anymore because they would pop up in the middle of the game, but they were just kind of distracting, and so now it's opaque. You'll just have to come and check the award screen. There's nothing tied into the awards that's special, no Easter eggs or anything. At least, not yet. So, once I get close to finishing everything, I may do another pass and add some Easter eggs to the game. We'll see. Got our tutorial still. So this is Dodger mode. We'll see how far I can get into it.
I've played this a few times.
Yeah. Oh, another thing that's changed here is, so in the first version of Flappy, or the first release of Flappy McFur, the calculation for his movement was done procedurally. So I was actually calculating with a vector his movement. Now it's a lookup table. So his movement is all lookup table. The only thing that's a vector in here is gravity. So he's always being pulled down, but his movement up and his curve down, his arcs are all lookup tables now. So it's super efficient in terms of speed. There's no slowdown. And that was important because I think with music enabled on the first version, there was a little bit of slowdown. So. Oh, I need to turn on the coins. Oh, that's new too. He hits and he falls
instead of just freezing.
Yeah, he in the first version he would freeze, and that's more akin to the original Flappy Bird. That's how they did it there, and it adds quite a bit to it. Let me turn on the coins so you guys can see the multiplier. And I could have sworn there was.
That's cool. You got a little bounce there. What is that?
Yeah. Oh, darn it. Yeah, I added this little bounce, and I'm going to add a little, so if you miss a coin, so let me see if I can, I'm going to try missing a coin.
You got the spacing different on the pipes, too.
So it switches. It'll go from bottom first, top last, from top first, bottom last, and it has a mode where they're lined up every once in a while.
Well, it seems like the distance between them is different now, too. It's not as consistent.
So that's the trick. That's how you know it's going to switch, is it waits. It basically telegraphs to you that it's going to change. So right now it's going to change. Now it's the top first and then the bottom last. And so I did that on purpose because if you didn't know that, it could trick you up pretty bad. So now they're lined up and they switch. It must be switching again. See, there's still some debugging I gotta do on this one. Anyways, that's it. Oh, I got a new high score. This is new too. So, and you can go check your high score. Hopefully nothing crashes. It shouldn't. I've tested.
Does it go to tracked mode if you leave it on the title screen long
No. So what this does is it will toggle between high score screens. It will go through all the high score screens automatically, and it will just loop back to the title screen where Cutter and Trevor run it.
What were the initials you had it?
God.
No, the other ones.
Oh. Seb is the best. I think it was BST before I took that score.
The Beast.
And then ABC, it was probably random. Bad, A98, those look like they're random. I haven't filled those out. Woofed, Bat.
These are probably scores you actually had us do.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Placeholders.
We should. These are my brothers. So. And then Jeff, that must be Jeff Minter, or it could be, no, Jeff Minter. Matthias Dahmen, the guy who did all those tools and stuff. He has that one page. Albert. That's Albert of AtariAge and Cyrano Jones. So they're in there. And I'll probably fill in a few more for this page here at one point in the classic mode. So those aren't filled in is because this is where I was testing the high score stuff. I think I was missing the default values and stuff like that.
J Trim
Oh, for Tremel. No, we'll come up with some Easter eggs. We'll do some stuff. I'm thinking I want to put a lot of the artwork in the game if we have some extra space and make those kind of a secret Easter egg thing. So, I can reveal this. So in the first release of Flappy McFur, hopefully somebody who has a copy sees this, there is secret artwork in that game that you can unlock from the code screen on Flappy McFur. And the codes are in the manual, I believe. They're somewhere. They're on the packaging or they're in the manual. I can't remember. You're going to have to look them up. But they are there. So there is a secret with Flappy McFur. Or, because nothing's hashed or encoded, you can just rip the ROM and dig them out that way if you really
This is
want
before you're compressing your sprites.
Yeah, so... anyways, that's Flappy McFur, the newer version. There is an end game, so when you win the game, there is a little story segment there, which I don't think anybody's gotten to yet online. So there's no video of that anywhere, and I'm not planning on showing it on stream. So there is something to be won in this game. It isn't just an arcade game.
We've got a couple of comments here.
Yeah.
Lee76 says, quite a few changes on Flappy McFur. I like the fall and need a pipe. Yeah. And Social Gamer is asking, is this already released or an upcoming game?
So a little bit of history on this. We released a first version of this game, a version 1.0, back in 2016. There were only 100 copies. We made those by hand. We did all the printing ourselves, and then we sold them. And we'll never do that again. We're going through AtariAge for this next release. So, sorry, who said that?
This is Social Gamer.
Social Gamer. So we're going to be going through AtariAge on our next release, and it's this game with 2 other games. So it's a compilation cart, and we'll probably show the other 2 games in the future in future streams. Yeah. But this will be re-released, and what's cool about that is this will sell as long as AtariAge is around, and so there won't be any limits on this, and as long as people are interested. So we're going to be doing some sort of licensing thing with Albert. We don't have the details figured out on that, but it will be there. We'll make sure everybody who wants it can get a copy. So because I feel kind of bad that there's only 100 copies out there of the first version of Flappy McFur. It's a lot of work to do all that.
We've talked about this, I don't know if this is even on the table, the idea of potentially offering the ROM for like extreme reduced, almost just like a donation page kind of a thing.
And I'm not opposed to that. I need to talk to Albert to see what he thinks
because we are
about
connected with that now. So.
I know he's selling some of Orion's games on cart. And Orion has started selling ROMs. Yeah. And so Albert might be open up to that. What I would like to do is I'd probably want to keep that locked up for the first year and then do a ROM release or something
and that makes sense, so, just because we want to have the physicality of it, right? We want to have those cards. And so it makes sense. We got to have an initial release like that, but then make sure everybody has access to it in some form or fashion.
Yeah, and that's like... We're collectors to an extent, and so we understand people just want to buy a copy and put it up on a shelf. But at the same time, we want people to actually play our games too, which would be cool as well. And so we want to make sure everybody who wants a copy, and that's one of the advantages of going through AtariAge, and this is kind of a plug for AtariAge. They're not sponsoring us, by the way.
Oh my. Well,
what?
If you want a copy of Flappy McFur...
Is it $300 or $400? There's been one up on eBay for quite a while for a couple $100, if I remember right.
From Germany, $250. But no.
So don't buy it. Please don't buy it. The version we're getting is going to be a better game. The packaging is going to be amazing. Plus, you're getting 2 other games. Don't get the original version. We put a lot of love into the packaging of that one for collectors, but because we knew we were only going to do 100 of them. But, don't spend that much. It isn't worth it.
We did a lot on that one. That custom stamp and everything.
If I had more time, I would say just contact me if you want a copy and I'll put one together for you. Because I still have some of the packaging. I still have packaging in storage. Because we didn't use all of it. Our printer printed up a bunch of extras. And so I still have some packaging. I could make more copies. Yeah. It's a lot of time. Yeah. I don't want to deal with it. So, yeah, don't give in to the scalpers. Unless you're really, really rich go ahead and do it.
Yeah, we're not going to stop you from spending your own money how you want.
If you're like most people where you just don't have gulobs and money all the time, don't do it. It's not worth it.
Really give us the money.
We would rather have your money.
Send us your money.
Send us your money. I really like this partnership with AtariAge because that is kind of the hub for the Jaguar people now. And so I would like to support that hub. It's a good place. It's a pretty healthy place in terms of conversation. Sometimes it gets a little heated and stuff like that, but it's well moderated.
Well, the main factor there is Albert. Any conversations I've had with you about Albert, he's good. He's got his connections to make sure all of this can actually happen.
Yeah.
In a really cool way.
And it's, as far as I know, AtariAge is his living, which is really, really cool. So he's really invested in it. Greetings from Trinidad.
Hey, Kevin.
Sweet.
Social Gamers wondering if...
Yes, that is our... Sorry, we didn't push... I forgot to push out on social before we started the stream. And so we didn't push out on Twitter. But yeah, that is our Twitter. We're not... At least right now, we're not too active on social media. I'm hoping to change that in the future. I'm thinking about doing some t-shirt designs and stuff like that for merchandising. I've had ideas for designs. I just... have had no reason to do it until this stream. So if we start picking up a little bit of an audience, I'm planning on doing some more Jaguar specific artwork, but I do want to do some merchandise if people are interested in that. Another thing I'm thinking about, and I don't have completely planned out yet, is I want to do another Atari related art book. I want to do 50 illustrations, and they aren't going to be black and white. They're going to be full color. I'm planning on it taking about a year to produce, and I want to sell it as kind of an Atari fan art book covering everything from the original Pong system to the Atari Jaguar. So maybe even some Atari VCS stuff if I get adventurous. So.
Kevin must have just dropped in the stream. So he's asking, what games would you say push the Jags limits? We just had a long discussion.
Yeah, earlier in this video, but just really quick. Iron Soldier is obviously one of those. Pushes it really, really
Hover
well.
Strike, I feel, does. It does some really interesting
it slows. Hover Strike is interesting because it slows down quite a bit, but again, there was a lot of
CD
effort.
version was a lot better. They just only made some improvements on the engine, and it had those levels. I don't know if these are in the original, the night missions. Yeah. Where it drops the textures and it just goes garage, and it has a cool fog effect going on.
It looks really cool. No, there's a lot of love in Hover Strike. But also, Missile Command 3D pushes things pretty hard, especially in those later levels when you have that big dragon flying around and stuff like that. There's a lot of animation going on, like character animation, which is really, really cool in Missile Command 3D.
Yeah. Missile Command 3D,
is a really good one. And Battlemorph is really, really pushes it. There's obviously Battlesphere, but who's ever going to play that? So which is really unfortunate.
Kind of a sore spot.
You can't play it in an emulator because it's locked out, and the only way to get your hands on it nowadays without shelling out $800 is to bootleg it. And so
it's unfortunate they haven't created a path for
people
the
to
rest
get
of us to be able to play it. Especially being a multiplayer game, it's like you'd think you'd want to open that up as much as possible.
Exactly.
That'd be awesome to be able
Apparently, I believe it's 16 players.
Well, especially now, so Will and I, we're into Dreamcast stuff a little bit too, and we got on, and if anybody is familiar, they figured out how to use a Raspberry Pi to emulate a dial-up connection. Yeah. So you can do online. All of the Dreamcast games are starting to come back online. Yeah. It's so cool.
We were playing Phantasy Star the other day. It's awesome. Thanks for the follow, Jody. Thanks for the follow, Social Gamer. It's the followings we have, I think our Twitter following is really, really small. Facebook, we have something like 400 followers, but it's been going for a lot longer than Twitter.
We've got 154.
Oh, cool. On Twitter. That's awesome. We'll need to do some more tweets.
We don't post a lot there, but we should be a little more active.
Yeah. That'll change. Sorry for my camera again. The sun is really blowing it out. We'll get that fixed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Battlesphere was at least they touted 16 players. I don't know if there's any proof that anybody's ever done 16 players.
Yeah, once again, it's the hardware necessary. I guess the other issue is the cat box, right? Getting the modems. Did somebody do another one that would handle that?
So, yes, somebody. Well,
is it the cat box?
Modem.
I'm trying to.
There's never been a modem, another modem.
What was it called? Was it
the JagLink?
JagLink. Okay.
Yeah,
the cat box is the local multiplayer. Right?
Yeah, all the cat box is it gives you the DB9 out, gives you the composite S video and the JagLink all in one box. That's all.
Oh, okay.
That's all a cat box is.
Yeah.
So, and this is exactly what we have on our Jag.
Gotcha.
It's the same thing. But yeah, with the JagLink, it's just a daisy chain. So you can daisy chain technically unlimited consoles, but I think the limit is 16 on the hardware level.
Bandwidth.
And
sure.
so
it's like the Lynx. The Lynx had a similar deal going on. In fact, as I recall, the protocol is similar to what the Lynx does.
Yeah,
its
it probably
working.
is. It's just a serial connection at a certain baud rate. But I'm an animator too. That's what I do for my work, my day job. I'm a motion graphics designer and animator artist. I call myself a multimedia artist because I do everything from illustration to animation, a lot of 3D stuff. So
I'm a programmer. For any of you who don't know.
Yeah, Bryce is a programmer.
Primarily web, but we do C obviously.
Yeah. So I should probably call myself a programmer at this point.
As far as C is concerned, you're at least as far along as I am.
Yeah. So I feel like I got an okay, at least a above amateur handle on C now, but I've gotten paid work.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah. This is something
You're a professional C programmer.
We should talk about this someday. I got a project a few months ago to actually make a Jag game for a conference, but the whole pandemic thing happened, and so the conference was canceled and they didn't actually use it. I'm actually, I guess this is a bit of a spoiler. I'm planning on taking that game. I've gotten permission to do this and reskin that, and I'm going to stick it in as a kind of a mini game. An audit will be watching, so you'll be able to defrag the robot because the radiation is messing up his hard drive or something. And so it's just a simple crane game where you drop stuff into slots, but it'll be fun. So
maybe I'll update the web port.
I got a B+ in C. That's right. So, I've actually never taken a class. I've learned C with the Jag stuff. So
just figuring it out.
Yep, figuring it out, which is probably not, especially with C and in hindsight, not the best way to approach it. But I've learned things really, really well that way too. It's just, that's how I learn. I like learning that way.
I come from JavaScript, and so syntactically it's very similar. Obviously, no typing in JavaScript.
Yeah.
Pointers aren't a thing.
Aren't a thing. Memory management.
The way brackets and things are laid out is exactly the same.
Not the same, but cool. Yeah, let us know what you think of Flappy, and we don't have a release date at this point. It's probably going to be next year summer, because Albert likes to release things during the summer, and we've missed that window. That may change though, depending on if we finish it in the next few months and get it out. It's really close, so look, man, you just mash the keyboard around until something you like happens. That's C code.
That's what it feels, man.
If you don't completely understand pointers, that's what it feels like.
Pointers or pointers of arrays, pointers to multi-dimensional.
Yeah, passing pointers into functions,
And just mess around with it until you figure it out.
Yeah, that's how I work. I do like reading manuals and stuff like that. In fact, as I've gotten older, I've wanted to do that more, but I found that I do learn just through the struggle, spending hours on a single problem. You don't forget it when you do that, because when you figure it out, it's such an artificial triumph. You don't forget it.
Or at least you have some code that you built and you know how it works that you can come back to when you hit that problem again. That's what I do a lot.
Yeah. And then and me and Bryce have talked about this recently, about just starting over. Like when you hit a wall, you just get past it, you just start over and do it again. And you learn a lot more when you do that.
Pull a J.R.R. Tolkien. I don't know if you guys know the history on that. When he was writing Lord of the Rings, he would start writing straight through, and if he hit a point where it's like, this is crap, he would start from the beginning with everything he'd learned from that revision and start from the beginning and write the entire story over again. He did it dozens of times.
Those are long books.
Yeah. So
I do animation the old time way, frame by frame, with backbreaking labor as God intended. Yeah, 2D animation is a slog. I'm a college dropout, but my first year I took a 2D animation class because I've always been interested in 2D animation, and I had an understanding that it was at least time intensive, but the amount of skill that goes into 2D animation, like really, really good, 24 frame 2D animation is unbelievable how hard it is. Now, most stuff is usually animated on 2s, and nowadays with YouTube, you're lucky to get much animation. You usually get like a squash and stretch animation, a skew, and then 2 frames of animation, and then an eye blink or something.
Did you see that one I sent you yesterday?
Yes, that was great. That was really well.
For YouTube, that was superb.
I've seen his videos before. He is a very good artist, or a very good animator, and I've seen his progress over the last decade because he's been on YouTube for a long time.
He doesn't post very often, like once a year.
And he's gotten. I think there's a lot of animators that came out of Newground. I don't know if you're familiar with Newground, but I think
the Flash animations.
Yeah, I think that's where he comes from as well.
Salad fingers.
But nobody else will ever be able to crack that. It's like a form of DRM where your handwriting is just really bad. Yep, that's about right. I see. I want to make my code readable because I'm not always programming, and so I'll take a break for a few weeks, and I want to be able to come back to it so I can continue.
Everything bite size as much as you can. Break things into functions.
Yeah. There's some optimizations on old hardware where if you break it down too much, you lose speed and stuff like that.
That is an issue for older stuff.
There's some give and take there.
Well.
All right. I think we're done for now. Maybe I'll actually do some JagDev one of these streams.
One of these streams.
Or
we probably ought to start with it if we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Just start it out, and then if we have time, we'll chit-chat about it.
I was thinking about sharing that Zelda clone I've been working on. Because I put a few hours into that, and there's some things I could do code-wise with that play around, add enemies and stuff like that. So, I'm this is a bit of foreshadowing. I'm way into old school Zelda games, and so I've been learning how to. I'm starting with the very first Zelda game. I'm trying to mimic that, and I want to move into the later Zelda games and figure out how to code that stuff. And so right now I have a Zelda clone where you can walk around, swing your sword, go screen to screen, and just a few weekends ago you can go from world to world. So I can do dungeons and stuff like that now. So anyways, in my head I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I handle items, projectiles, and enemies? How do I figure all that out and make that easy to set up in the back end? So I just dropped the maps in and they're good to go, that kind of stuff. So, but
standardized data.
Pick it back up, and open tunes and stuff is great, and there's a lot of time. So this, I have a job right now with my day job where I've been learning. I don't know if you're familiar with Blender 3D, but I've been learning Grease Pencil, and I've gotten pretty darn good with Grease Pencil. And what's cool about that is, you get a full 3D animation package. But you have all the 2D animation tools too, with keyframes and doing frame-by-frame animation. But you can also do cool skews and add modifiers to do procedural things, which things like open tunes and stuff, you can't do that. Because it's strictly a traditional 2D animator. But I've used, you're probably familiar with Krita. They have a pretty robust 2D animation suite in there now too. And over the years, I've done just some text animation and stuff like that, hand-drawn frame-by-frame. So I do love 2D animation. It's just super time consuming, and most people don't want to pay for it. So anyways,
Billy, we'll see you later. You're probably already gone, but yeah, thanks for joining us. You've been a good consistent viewer. Good to have you around.
We're gonna head out now, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll try to be more on the ball with getting notifications out on social media, and maybe even post something on social media too. So we're also just one last thing before we cut off. I haven't used Toon Boom, but great stream. Yeah, you're welcome. We're thinking about mixing up our formula a little bit here. Some weeks we'll just play a game. Some weeks we may do something pre-recorded and treat it as a premiere and stream that instead. And then some weeks we'll do this. We're coming up with different ideas to kind of mix things up, keep it interesting. So
fresh.
Okay, thanks again, and we will see you next time.
Yep.